University Park, Penn State University Park, is located in one of the upper watersheds of the Chesapeake Bay, the overall Chesapeake Bay watershed, which itself is 64,000 square miles. And I've watched over the years a lot of really good work that's been done relative to the Chesapeake Bay, but nothing seems to really change much in terms of the quality of the bay. I'm Andy Cole, professor of landscape architecture in the College of Arts and Architecture. I'm an ecologist, a wetland ecologist by training, with some wildlife biology in my background. And I've been here since 1993, so I've had almost 30 years of experience of watching what's going on in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. There are report cards that you can see perhaps over my shoulder that come out every year, and they go up and down a little bit. Sometimes the bay is a little bit healthier, sometimes less so, but if you look at it over almost 40 years, it's almost a flat line. Nothing has really changed.
The Chesapeake Bay used to be a very diverse and healthy ecosystem teeming with wildlife, and over the past many years the health of that ecosystem has degraded. The University of Maryland oftentimes grades the bay as in poor or failing health. So I'm Andy High, an associate professor in the Department of Communication, Arts and Sciences. I study interpersonal communication and computer-mediated communication, which basically involves what are the dynamics of messages, relationships, and contacts that make an interaction unfold in the ways that they do.
So it occurred to me when folks over in Communications, Arts and Sciences were talking about problems that we could deal with. I thought, well, you know, here's an issue that doesn't seem to be solved no matter how much time and money we seem to be throwing at it, and maybe we could look at it in a little different way.
The problem that we're studying for related to this collaboration is really the health of the Chesapeake Bay, and recognizing that that problem isn't isolated to the bay, but involves the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed, which ranges at the north to New York all the way through Pennsylvania through Maryland. So it's a huge and diverse place. What happens upstream in the watershed certainly influences what happens downstream in the watershed.
I would say if you get outside of the bay itself, right? If you get up into, you know, upstate New York or central western Pennsylvania, most folks don't know that they're in the bay watershed. And so what we are attempting to do is to look at issues of identity in the bay, and hopefully then if people begin to realize that they are part of the bay watershed, there are things that can happen outside of the initial area around the bay that can do wonders for cleaning up the bay.
One way to look at the solution of health in the Chesapeake Bay is not as the top-down legislation that's often been done so far for the past several years, but as more bottom-up, looking at how people communicate with one another and how they understand their identity as members of the bay. So our first project took a mass communication approach in which we looked at local newspaper coverage in Cooperstown, New York, Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, and Havre de Grace, Maryland, so north to south in the watershed. And we looked at the extent to which their local newspapers covered issues of the watershed and how the identity or the consideration of the watershed varied across those three different locations within the watershed.
So the entire effort started with Jim Dillard out of Communications, Arts and Sciences, had some funding to try to bring people across campus on large-scale issues that have to do with communication. This did not start out as a Chesapeake Bay issue. Once that happened, Andy High joined in on this, and then we got Juliet Pinto from journalism, and J.J. Delacruz and Tori Zhang coming in as graduate students, and then Stephen Mainzer came in from landscape architecture to bring in more of a social perspective, and Juliet brought in the journalism perspective, and it sort of all coalesced around the issue of communication and less of ecology at this point. And it's really been a group effort. This has been one of the more integrative group efforts that I've seen on campus. It's everything from communication folks to the journalism to Stephen Mainzer doing mapping, and then me occasionally nudging the ecology along so that we don't forget why we started this. It's been a really terrific group to work with, probably the most interdisciplinary group that I've been associated with since I've been on campus. On a much smaller scale, but still pretty large, the issue of the Chesapeake Bay comes down to not just one person, right? Not one person can solve all this, but it takes all of us within the 64,000 square mile watershed to make decisions about how we deal with our lawns, how we deal with our farms, how we deal with our towns and cities, and what goes into our streams to make decisions about keeping things out of them. It's not a single person, it's everybody together.
Thanks for watching. Have a look around our website at cssi.psu.edu to learn more about our current initiatives, and check back for updates on collaborations and upcoming projects.